You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad and writer who has been living in my 1997 Ford van since January 1st of 2019. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Priestley. And I'm here today with Hilary Bird. And if you're watching the video version of this podcast, you just saw her camera slide all the way down, her very complex tripod usage of a Cheerio box and a peanut butter jar. And that's what the giggle was. My guest today is Hilary Bird, and she just passed the 3-month mark in her van. She's currently in northern Idaho after traveling all the way across the country after building out her van in New Hampshire. And I want to talk to her today and find out how the first few months have been and give you all a little look into her lifestyle. So, hello, Hilary.
Hello, Holly. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here in your full authentic glory.
Just woke up, too.
Just woke up in a parking lot using a peanut butter jar to hold up your phone. I get it. It's fine. Hilary, why don't you give the audience a little bit of your background for those people who don't know you or follow you on social media yet?
Yeah, totally. So like you said, I've been on the road for 3 months, and before that I had spent about 5 months building out the van with a lot of help from my dad and my parents. I was living in Utah, but I actually, so I quit my corporate job and then found a van in Canada, booked a one-way flight to Canada, picked up the van, drove it back down to New Hampshire, where I spent 5 months building it out, and haven't looked back since.
What was the corporate job that you left?
It was in digital marketing, and I've been there for 2 years, and it was like I was probably like 7 years into a digital marketing career, and decided corporate life was not for me. So
I feel you. I personally am a terrible employee. I'm really good. I'm really good at like doing work and but for myself, I don't like it when other people tell me like when, where, and how to be productive. That really just does not work for me. I will get so much more done in a day if I'm self-directed than if somebody else tells me like, you have to be in this chair at this desk in this office in this building in this town from Monday through Friday 8 to 5 and like that's your life. I'm like, fuck you, no thanks.
Right? That is exactly how I felt. I actually started developing little anxiety attacks right before I left because of that exact feeling. And it would actually happen on Monday mornings. I would go in, sit down at my desk, and then all of a sudden it was I feel like I'm in a fishbowl, and just this panicky feeling of oh my God, life's happening, and everyone seems to be fine about it, but I can't just sit here.
Right? It makes you kind of gaslight yourself, where you're thinking what's wrong with me that I can't make this work? Everybody else seems to be perfectly happy and content, and they're thriving, and I'm miserable. And what's wrong with me that I can't make this work? I just need to try harder. I did that for years. I got my dream job, and I did everything. I bought the house, and I had the car, and I had everything, and then I was miserable. I couldn't figure out why.
What was your dream job? I gotta know.
My dream job at the time was doing technical editing for knitting magazines to make sure that the patterns that we were publishing would actually make the garments that we said they would. And I still love that work. I still do it freelance on the side for my independent clients. But again, it was that corporate environment and the fluorescent lighting and the gray cubicles.
Right.
And, there were some coworker conflicts as well, and some other corporate politics that really just did not work for me, but I couldn't figure out why. I was like, this is everything. I checked off everything on the list. Like, what the fuck is my problem?
Yup.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
been about what, 8 or 9 months then since you quit your corporate job and have been unemployed, fun employed, self-employed. What are you doing now?
Thankfully, I have two part-time remote marketing jobs. Each of them are probably 10 hours a week. So, and actually one of them came from an old coworker who had left the company that I also left. He moved on to a different company, and then they had some marketing needs, and then another old coworker from another company had some marketing needs. So it's been really perfect being able to, like you were saying with your technical knitting writing, it's like I still get to use my marketing
Mhm.
skills like on these side gigs, and it's enough to keep me afloat and save a little bit, while also not, running my life. Like I can go, 2 or 3 days without working. Um, so it just felt like once I finally made the leap to doing this, things fell into place. Like I was ready to be totally unemployed and like totally scared, that I just have this nest egg that I'm going to be, taking from and everything. But it's like, I swear the universe is like, once it senses motion or a lot of energy towards something, it's like, I want to help you like achieve this goal that you're really set on. So,
Yeah, I've noticed that sometimes if I set my mind to something that I want and I start taking steps in that direction, the universe is like, are you sure you want to do that? Let's throw some challenges in your way first. Let's give you some big old fucking hurdles to jump. Let's make sure you're committed. And then if I stick with it through those hurdles, I'm like, I really want to do this. Make it work. And then the universe is like, okay, fine, you passed the test. You really want to do this. Here you go.
right? I totally agree. Oh my God.
When you
Yeah.
were in that transition period between like maybe just before you put in your notice to getting on the road for the first like week or so, was there any part of you, like, were you afraid of anything? Did any of those challenges come up for you, or like how did you deal with that, like, what the fuck am I doing uh feeling?
Oh, 1000%. I was like, oh my God, beyond that. Like, I felt like almost a joke. Like when I was starting to I actually lived with my brother and his girlfriend and another girl at the time, and telling them, like, I think, like, I really want to do this because I even had a van in mind and stuff. And I mean, they were all really supportive. Um, but I remember, like, talking through it with my brother, and he's like, if this is something you really want to do, like, just go for it. And I almost thought he was joking, or like I didn't take him seriously, or and then I was like starting to tell my coworkers, and I told my manager. But again, yeah, I just felt like a joke, like they're, like hashtag wanderlust, like this typical millennial just wants to go live in a van and, forget about the societal expectations put upon her. And, she thinks
Mm-hmm.
that everything's just going to magically work out. And so,
Yep.
yeah, I had all that feeling.
There's
And
this
then just from, yeah.
there's a stigma for sure. And like, I mean, my friends and I kind of joke about that whole like hashtag van life, hashtag blessed. Like, like you're always going to be waking up with some like epic view and perfect temperatures, and you're lounging in a bikini all day and eating these like smoothie bowls. Like, that's not reality. You're in a fucking parking lot with a train going by next to you. Like,
Using a peanut butter jar to prop up my phone. Like, this is not
exactly.
glamorous.
Like, it's not glamorous at all. Like, especially when people start getting into the whole like, how do you go to the bathroom, how do you take a shower? It's like, you don't want to know.
Nope. You definitely don't want to know. When I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning because I had to pee, and my pee jar was full. Oh my God. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So then when you finally did do it and you put in your notice and you had a one-way ticket to Canada, um, how did you do the build out? You said you had some help from your folks, and I imagine YouTube, just because that's how I did
Oh yeah.
it.
Yes, totally. I went about it in just about the most, like, uh, I liked to give myself as many obstacles as possible, apparently.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I actually bought the van because it was already built out. Like it
Okay.
had a fixed bed in there. It had like cedar shingles lining the whole van. And also it was like only $6,000. So that's why I was willing to fly to Canada, because I'd been looking a little bit at vans, and it was the only one that was like, I was like, if I hate van life, it's cheap enough, so I'm not going to be totally broke. Yeah, it has high mileage, but it's already built out, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And when I picked up the van, yeah, I took it back to my parents because I just wanted my dad to look at it from like a safety mechanical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And had he didn't want me to buy the van at all. He was like, this thing has so many issues, like XYZ. And then there was like a propane tank that wasn't secured to anything, and like open wires on the ground and cedar shingles. And he's like, Hilary, it's a miracle no one has like gone up in flames yet. Like, how, like, we have to change this. And anyway, once I got it back to my parents' house, he and I ended up like, getting lost in these dreamy build out ideas, and I decided to gut it. So, and then it wasn't until after I gutted it that I realized how dependent I was on his help for finishing it, just because
Uh-huh.
um so yeah. But we learned so much. And he actually ended up retiring from his job of like 20 plus years after I'd already been home for like a month or so. And I just, again, it was like the universe, I feel, was like, here, Hilary, like, now have your dad's, 24/7 help. So,
You
but
retired from that job to do this one.
exactly. He was like, this doesn't feel like retirement. I'm just like slave driving. Well, yeah, working. I don't know if
What kind of van is it?
It's a 1999 Ford E250.
Okay.
I think,
Pretty similar to mine. Mine's a
yeah,
97
yeah.
E350, and I've got the fiberglass high top, so I can stand in it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I remember seeing your van like months ago on Instagram when I was first getting on the gram scene of the van life. And I was like, oh, this girl, she's got a similar van to me. That's cool.
They're not very common. So, like, all of those YouTube videos are great resources. I absolutely love them. Huge fan of the University of YouTube, not sponsored. Yeah. But like
Yes.
so many of them are like, the sprinters, the transits, the ProMasters. So like a few
Right.
of the things I can translate over, like, the electrical or whatever. But when it comes to actually building out a van like ours that has curves on the sides, and then it has like the curve of the fiberglass, and there's not straight lines, and it's
Oh
not
my
all
God.
metal, and I've got all these windows, and it's like,
Yep.
we didn't really know how to build it out, so we just kind of my dad and I, we did it in 4 days. But
What?
so my situation was actually very similar to yours. I was looking around for vans, and especially in places like Utah and Colorado, and Oregon, van life is more of a thing. It's more known. And so on the one hand, there are more options, but on the other hand, they are very expensive compared to like if you're buying a van from like the East Coast. They don't really have van life as much over there. So I was looking at all these vans and test driving. It took me about 8 months of looking and test driving to finally get the one that I have now. And she was also half built, and she was also $6,000.
Oh my gosh.
She didn't have that high a mileage. My requirement was that she had under 100,000, and she had 97. So
Oh wow.
doing good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I drove down from my home base in Denver to northern New Mexico over the Thanksgiving weekend, and my dad helped me basically finish it in 4 days. And we didn't know what the fuck we were doing, and there was no instructions for like the best way to mount walls or shelves or ceiling to fiberglass. So we kind of made it up. And I've had a few people now with the fiberglass high tops like reach out for like more detailed instructions, because my YouTubes were kind of like a time lapse, like here's what we did, but I didn't go into the details of like how or why. So I might need to do an updated version of that, because they do seem to be becoming more popular for road life.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like everyone's so jaded or burned out on the, pretty new version of van life that they're like circling back to the roots of, but also too, for the majority of people, I'd say our style is much more affordable if you want
Yeah,
to like dive into it. Um,
absolutely. Like I did not go into debt over my van.
right.
I cleaned
Same.
out my savings, but I did not go into debt.
Right. Yeah.
And over the last 2 years, I bought the van at the beginning of August 2 years ago. So um, I haven't had too many mechanical issues. I mean, like, it's a van. It's a 97. It's getting more and more miles on it the more I drive it. Things happen, but at the
Right.
same time, like, it's an old Ford. I can take it just about anywhere and they can fix it, versus like some of these like brand new vans, and especially like the Sprinters, which are very popular for a lot of reasons, but they have so many computer bits in them, and like they're so specialized that you can't necessarily break down in podunk and like expect to be helped. And that was one thing that like, I am not a mechanic, so I need my van to be relatively simple so that somebody else can fix it for me.
So exactly. So true. You're like in my head. These are all the things that I was thinking of, And yeah, I still had to put like $3,000 into just fixes on the van, like the whole brake line system had to be redone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exhaust manifold bolts had to be replaced. Some really expensive fixes, but again, it was like, I had a certain budget for this whole van life thing, and because the van was only $6,000, I was still within that budget after the fixes. And so many of the materials from or that are now in this van just came from like my parents' basement. It's so, I mean, even actually this used to be a Holiday Inn shuttle bus, but like all this is, original shuttle bus paneling. Because like you were saying, nothing is straight in these types of vans, and it's so hard figuring out how to cover up these walls that we ended up just reusing the stuff that was, designed professionally for it, because it was just such an awkward place to cover.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really fun version of it, I think, because when I do go to van events, and I imagine you haven't been to any because there haven't been any this year because of some pandemic or whatever, but when I go to van events, like, I'm a big white van technically, although I'm very off-white and definitely very dirty, but I have all the windows and I'm like a little bit different because of the shape and all of that. And so it's been nice to kind of like have people come into my space and be like, oh, well, this is nice, this is cozy, like it's actually like I've got a ton of seating. I think the most people
Yeah.
I've had in my van at once has been like 9, which is a lot.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
That is a lot. Yeah.
I have a lot of seating around like my little table that I can set up, and the cooler always counts as seating, and
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't have a swivel chair yet, but I'm working on that.
Right. I know. Yeah. I have had lots of people, just about every person that walks into this van says, "Oh, this is a lot more spacious than I thought."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have some friends who like just like, oh, well, if this is what van life is, because a lot of people, there's like two trains of thought, right? The people who are on social media looking at the van life hashtags and looking at the glamorous like 6-figure vans,
Right.
or there's people who have no idea what van life is, and they're that very like Saturday Night Live, like down by the river, and they have got like that kind of view, like you're just a dirt bag in your minivan, and you don't have anything, like you don't have normal conveniences, and like I don't have running water. My electricity comes from the sun, like, but it's a pretty comfortable little home in there, and everyone's
Yeah.
surprised.
Yep. But totally.
What do you think have been the biggest changes that you've noticed in the first 3 months, like the first week on the road versus this past week? Has anything significant changed for you?
Um, I think one of the big things was, once you're living in a van, everything that you take for granted becomes a decision you have to make.
Yeah,
Where can I go to the bathroom? Where can I brush my teeth, wash my face? Where am I going to sleep every night? Just and it's more complicated than that too, like for anyone listening, because even if you're like, I want to make breakfast, well, first, in order to make breakfast, I have to like fill up my tea kettle, but in order to fill up my tea kettle, it's like I have to get water from this I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, just all these, like intense decisions. And when I first hit the road, it was really exhausting to me. It was like I feel like I could make breakfast and get ready for the day and already be exhausted, like
yeah,
mentally just drained. And now it's like things are starting to become second nature, and just like I'm developing those routines and obsessing less about the small stuff, and honestly just kind of lowering my level not of hygiene. Lowering it. Like, I don't know, just getting more comfortable with life on the road.
yeah. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I
Yeah.
mean, I wash my hair maybe once a week these days.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah, I've been swimming in the lake for the last week, and that's my bath.
yeah, your hygiene does change. One thing that I remind people all the time is that, like, yeah, van life like makes life a lot simpler. It removes a lot of the complexities of like regular life, but it makes those simple things very complicated. So like
So true.
making tea in the morning, like you have to make sure that you can fill up your kettle, but to fill up your kettle you have to fill up this, and to fill up this you have to go there and like know where to find this. Like it
Yep.
is more like basic survival is like a thing that you have to think about versus like in a house, like I'm gonna turn the faucet on and then I have endless water. Like it's just different,
Totally.
but it's not bad, and it does become a routine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the stimulation my mind was craving every day, because I'd rather be thinking about those things than like,
Mhm.
I don't know, just more superficial stuff that doesn't matter,
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
the things that matter change when you move into a
Yeah.
van, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it has kind of weird, like worked out. Seems about every 2 to 3 weeks, I end up meeting up with a friend,
Mhm.
or yeah, staying at a friend's place. So that's always nice to, see someone in person, have a place to do my laundry, take a shower, um, have a real bed. Although I do love my bed, don't get me wrong. It's very comfortable.
Oftentimes when I visit people, I'll just stay in my van in their driveway because my home is more comfortable to me than a stranger's home, or like even a friend or family member's home. Um, there's a few people who like I'll stay in their house. Like right now, I'm at my folks' house and I'm staying in their guest room. But most of the
Yeah.
time, I'll just stay in the van on the property of the person that I'm visiting.
That's interesting. See, that is another thing that I'm like van life etiquette, I hate feeling like I'm like, yeah, putting someone out
Mhm.
by showing up to
Going to
their
be
house
this
and being like,
person.
yeah, like, hey, set me up a guest bedroom. Now let me do laundry at your place. Now let me take a shower, and I hate that. And it's like funny because I think when a lot of van people hit the road, so many random people, like so many random people that I haven't talked to in years will be like, hey, I'm in, this place. Feel free to stop in anytime. And I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks, but probably never going to take you up on that because I would feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I haven't talked to you in years, and now you're like, hey, like I just can't like put people out like that. But then I'm like, am I overthinking it? I don't know.
I'm the exact same way, and I have been told that I'm overthinking it. I like I'll be out gallivanting, doing whatever it is that I do, and then when I pass through a town that I have friends in, and the more you travel, the more friends you have in more places. but I'll be passing through and somebody will be like, hey, come over and like, you know, do laundry, take a shower, fill up your water. Like you can sleep in the house if you want to. And I sometimes even when they offer, I won't always take them up on it because it's like I don't want to be that person who like leaves for like 6 months to a year and then I come back and I suddenly need a bunch of shit and I can't take care of myself. Like no, like let's just meet up somewhere and I'll take care of myself. And you know, some of my
Right.
big friends are like, why are you making this harder on yourself? And it's like I don't want to be a burden and I just want to be self-sufficient and I don't need anybody.
Right, like I don't want my time meeting up with this person to be defined by like me, like you said, needing things and
Yeah.
stuff. um, but I do think that they are really excited to help us and like, you know, support this cool thing because everyone seems to think it's cool that we're doing
Yeah. Yeah, there are some people out there who don't necessarily like it so much, but they're not friends of mine, so
it. They're no friends of mine. Who are these people you speak of?
you on the road long enough, you'll meet them.
Yeah, I believe that. There was I actually grabbed a coffee the other day, and a man was sitting out on his lawn chair. This is, and I was like, nice setup, because he was literally just sitting on the sidewalk drinking his coffee, like in a lawn chair. And then
Yeah.
he launched into saying how, well, this is off topic, but like his friend would, you know, get coffee there every morning, and that was his community. But because of COVID, like, you know, he couldn't go there anymore, and then he had just committed suicide because like he didn't have his
Oh,
community anymore. And
no.
then, you know, I told him I'm doing the van thing, and he's like, everyone wants a piece of the pie, you know, look out, everyone's going to be trying to take your pie. I don't know, that was really off topic, but
I think that there's like just different mindsets in the world about like I get that all the time and I'm sure you do too about like being a solo female on the road and it's like you got to be careful, you got to be safe. There's someone's always going to want something from you. There's not enough to go around. And this is not just like exclusive to van life by any means. But as we just said about like all of our friends and wanting to help us more, like I think reality is A, subjective, and B,
mhm,
you know, if you're looking for ways that the world is going to hurt you, then you're going to find them. But if you're looking for ways that the world is going to support you, then you're going to find those too. And I mean, that's really tragic that your friend, this person that you met lost his friend as a result of feeling lonely and isolated. And I think that a lot of people do that right now during the pandemic. And
yeah.
it's really important to keep reaching out to people. So PSA, reach out to all your peeps.
Yeah,
Send everyone
seriously.
love notes. And,
Yeah.
you know, maybe spend 5 minutes today at least thinking about all the ways that the world has supported you in the last 6 months and not necessarily all the ways that it's taken from you.
Right. Yeah. And going back to your note about like being a solo female and safety and stuff, um, like if you Google anything about solo female van life, all the results are related to safety.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like kind of frustrating, but good, because it is a real thing and it is something that concerns me often if I'm like in the woods by myself, for sure.
I feel safer in the woods than I do near people.
Yeah, see, I'm working on that. I still don't. I really struggle to feel okay in the woods by myself. And it sucks because it has prevented me from, you know, I'll just spend more nights in a hotel parking lot. But it's weird because I hate that like solo female van life is totally associated with just the safety aspect. But then at the
Yeah.
same time, I do feel like I am really like that is a concern of mine.
I don't think you could even Google like solo male van life and even get any results because it's kind of the expectation. And
It's a really good point. Yeah.
solo female van life is like this odd thing that people always want to talk about, and they really only want to talk about it from a safety standpoint. Nobody's like, how are you supporting yourself? Or I mean, they ask me that, but it's not because I'm a solo female. They're just asking me that because I'm doing van life. And anytime they're like, are you alone on the road? I'm like, well, I have my dog. And they're like, so you're alone? And I'm like, no, I have my dog. But then, yeah, they always launch into like, do you feel safe? And I'm like, would you ask a man that? You know,
Right.
like I had a conversation a few months ago with a guy that I ended up camping by, who has a son, just like a little bit younger than me, and he was really curious about my lifestyle and stuff. And he asked me about the safety things, and I told him my usual spiel. But then I asked him, like, you have a son who's about my age. Like, did you teach him to be like a rapist and like somebody who attacks women? And did you teach him that that was okay? And he was like, no. And I was like, I don't think most people did. You know, and if you
Right.
had a daughter that was my age, like, would you want her to not do things in the world because she was afraid of some of the bad people? Like, I'm not saying there aren't bad people in the world. I'm just saying that if I live my life according to that, I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah,
That's not what I
exactly.
want to do with my life.
That's a really good point of thinking about it. Like, oh, did you raise your son to be, you know, a terrible male? Like,
Mm-hmm.
no. Okay. Yeah. I don't think most people do raise their kids to be that way.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely take certain precautions to make sure that I'm safe. That I don't think that most of my male van friends take. And I have to think about things differently than I think most of them do. But I'm also not going to let it rule my life. And I like, it's
Right.
just really weird. Like, I feel like a hypocrite, but I don't want to be a dum dum. Like, I don't know. It's a weird place to be, but I mean, I've been doing it for a year and 9 months, and the majority of the people that I've met have been wonderful, and the majority of the experiences that I have had have been wonderful.
Right. And like, you know, you're going to be in danger no matter what you're doing in life to some degree, you know. And
Yeah.
I think the best safety precaution you can take is trusting your instincts and not letting yourself end up in a really vulnerable situation in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, that's
I fully agree. I feel like maybe I should do an episode on safety or addressing some of the safety concerns that I have or that people have that I alleviate in my own ways. Um,
right. And then that's a whole other safety concern is like, or how much do you share about your personal routines
right.
and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, I just wrote this like, you know, van life scary stories that have happened to me, and this blog post, and I was sharing it on social media. And my mom read it, and she's like, you know,
Oh boy. Moms.
yeah, yeah, like don't, you know. And all I did was mention. I thought I was being safe. I just mentioned some city names and stuff, and she's like already concerned, and it's hard to know what is the line.
Yeah. I mean, I don't I don't share where I am on social media when I'm there. I share it after I've left usually. Um,
Yeah,
I I do like withhold some information for my own personal safety, but I don't let it hold me back either. So
yeah,
you just got to find that balance. And I think that like trusting your instincts and trusting your gut is like the biggest thing you can do.
totally. Yeah, agreed.
What do you think have been some of the biggest pros and cons to moving into the van and leaving the corporate world behind?
Ooh, obviously a huge pro is the, you know, beautiful views and, you know, I seriously have no schedule ever, and I will decide day by day if I'm going to stay in a place for another day or if I'm going to just be like, you know what? No, like I'm out of here. Um, and I love that. I think another pro too is, like I went into van life knowing it was going to be more than just beautiful views. Like I wanted it to kind of force me to like reflect on myself and figure out, you know, what kind of life I want to live. You know, I'm approaching 30 and I have these things I want to think about.
I'm
Um,
in 30s and it's great and I love it and you're going to have a great time.
yes. Okay. I hear the 30s are like the place to be.
That's
Like,
better than 20s so far.
Yeah, my early 20s were just like so angsty still, or like trying to prove myself to myself, and you're like, what does it all mean? And
Yep.
yeah,
30,
which isn't
you're
bad.
gonna love it.
Yes, I'm so excited. Every year I feel myself just like chilling more. Um, but yeah, so it's been really great for like stripping away those layers of getting to know myself and my priorities and everything. Cons are definitely like sleeping, I think, is the biggest one. Like, where am I going to sleep every night? I've been in the same hotel parking lot for like 4 days, and I'm really wondering if they're going to finally notice that I like am not, staying here for real. Um, and yeah, loneliness is definitely a thing. I'm trying to get better at like going out to restaurants by myself or bars and stuff, but that does not come easily to me.
Yeah. Well, and
So
especially right now.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm so bummed all those van meetups were canceled. I was really
Yeah.
looking forward to those. Do you have any that you recommend, or?
So I haven't been to very many of them, to be honest, but I would absolutely recommend getting down to Arizona in January.
Okay, good. Arizona and is my plan for the winter. So
Yeah, mine too. So we should hang out.
yes, we should.
um, but I don't know if it's going to happen this year because of the pandemic and stuff. But
Yeah.
if the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous happens, you should absolutely go to that one.
Okay.
it's
I've not heard.
it's the biggest. It's huge. It's free. It's the first one I went to. I moved into my van on January 1st of 2019, and I immediately drove 3 days to get to the desert of Arizona and attend this band meetup. And it was so worth it in so many ways. I mean, no substitute for actually like living in a van and getting out there and doing your thing, but still a really cool thing to do. And a lot of road people seem to hang out in Arizona and Southern California, um,
Yeah.
and parts of Nevada in the winter because the temperatures are more moderate. So, would definitely recommend doing that. And if there aren't van happenings, use Instagram to kind of like geolocate and like see like what banners are around. That's another way that I meet other people on the road. It works pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've had a couple van meetups, and they were like polar opposite experiences.
Yeah.
Um,
People are still people if they live in a van. Some of them are great and some of them are less great.
that's a really good point too. Yeah, one of them, it was just really fun. We were like, figuring out what we were going to do every day, uh, going exploring, and the other, it felt like, they already had their routine, like they weren't budging from it, and I'm like, should I leave? Like, I feel like my presence is like offending you. I don't know. So like, I really don't know what the expectations are, like van etiquette. How does that work for you when you meet up with people? Do you like make meals together every night, or do you do your own thing, or?
It depends on the people, but more often than not, yeah, like there's no way to not be like an intimate part of each other's lives when you're parked next to each other all day long.
Yeah.
I found that most of the time we do like cook meals together and do things together. But at the same time, like I'm an introvert, I need a lot of time by myself. Uh,
Yeah.
and also like for work and stuff too, like you can't be constantly interrupted and be able to like produce anything valuable.
Right.
So depending on the time of year, an open door policy is an open door policy. If my door's open, you're welcome to, you know, come talk to me and hang out. And then other times of year, it's like, I need the door open because it is hot as fuck. You cannot come bother me right now.
But stay the fuck away.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things would just be like knowing what you need and setting boundaries and like vocalizing them to somebody else. And if they get offended, that's on them, not on you.
I love that.
And then
Yeah.
also being honest and open about like if you need more time, if I'm bothering you, let me know because that's not what I want, right? Like, or checking in with somebody like, hey, I'm at a good stopping point. I'm gonna go for a hike. Do you want to come with me? But then like being ready and willing to do things by yourself and inviting them along if they want to come, like just having open dialogue. Because I mean, in the van community, I don't know, it's just a little bit different than sticks and bricks because you are so like immediately intimate. And that doesn't mean sexually, obviously. It just means like you're immediately like, when I'm going to the bathroom.
Right? I know.
When like things are happening, like
Right.
you have to be more honest with yourself and with the people that you're around. So more of that is better.
And it's such good stuff for me to learn because like in my own personal life before doing van life, boundaries and expressing my needs are something that do not come easy to me.
It's
Um,
hard.
it really is, so, but I'm excited to, be in more of those van situations where I gotta figure it out.
Yeah. I got a lot of good people you're going to enjoy. I'll connect you. Some of them are up where you are right now. So
Oh, really?
yeah, we'll make that happen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Cool.
I think this next one is kind of a tough question because you are so new to your new life. Do you happen to know about how much it costs you each month to live in your van, like between all your bills and insurances and just regular road
Yeah.
life? Do you have any idea of what the money looks like?
I believe I did figure that out roughly. Obviously, I can only base it off of like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it's around 1,200, probably 12 to 1,500 a month. Yeah, I honestly feel like I spend sometimes more money in a van than I was, in my other life. Like food and stuff. Food is the big one.
Yeah,
I
for
don't
me,
have,
it's
yeah,
gas.
and yeah, obviously
Yeah.
gas is huge. I figured out that I am spending about 270 a month on gas, at
Mm-hmm.
least over the last 3 months. So yeah, there's that. And then I don't have a refrigerator,
Mm-hmm.
so like I either, I have a cooler and it requires a lot of ice. That's like a budget in itself, like an ice budget.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't have
some of
a
your
refrigerator either. I just use a cooler and I don't buy ice if I can help it.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
How do you
So
manage that?
part of that is my diet. I don't eat meat or anything. I don't keep like eggs or dairy other than like cheese in the van. And then
Okay.
um, so that helps. I don't have to keep things like actually very cold. And
Yeah.
I I open the lid to my cooler at night so that the cold air comes in, and then I close it during the day.
Smart.
It's not a scientific system, but it works for me.
Hey, if it works for you. I think the biggest downer about not having a fridge in the van is that on a hot day, you have nothing
Yeah.
refreshing to go to. Yeah,
Yep.
like my water is warm, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. Absolutely. That's why it pays to park by water, lakes, and rivers and things.
Right? Yep. Oh my gosh, the short side story. I was like making Alfredo pasta the other night and I ended up knocking over the Alfredo jar and like half of it spills everywhere.
Oh no.
I know. I like grab a towel and I clean it up and then I just like take the towel to the lake and I'm like kind of rinsing it off and then realize there's this like, luxury resort hotel right on the water and people are like eating dinner watching me like clean.
It'll happen again and again
Yeah.
and again. It's
I
part of
honestly love those moments.
it.
Yeah.
Do you know what your future plans are with the van? Are you enjoying it so far? Do you think you'll be in it for a while? Do you have any idea of what your future looks like?
Yeah, right now I have no plans on stopping being in it anytime soon. I do still have a room that I'm like sort of renting in Utah, so I'll probably go back there for like a month once it gets cold,
Hmm.
stay there for a month, and then go back to like Arizona or Southern California.
Nice.
But yeah, this van has been a tank. It hasn't given me any huge issues, minus one little moment, but knock on wood that it stays running smoothly.
Awesome, awesome. And
Yeah.
what advice would you give to anybody who's considering making the leap into moving into a van, especially somebody who's in that corporate environment and is just not finding satisfaction there, what would you tell younger you?
I would tell younger me to keep saving that money and just believe in taking the leap. I don't basically trust in yourself. Know that even if you throw yourself into a tough situation, like, you're capable of figuring it out. It's not the end of the world. You still have your health. You have, a support system. If you have like a family, that supports you.
If you don't have that kind of support system, you probably have a support system in the van community, because we are very supportive people.
Totally.
Always here to help each other out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Hilary, if somebody wanted to come follow you on the social media and see your big green van, where can they find you online?
I'm on Instagram at green.van.go. And I'm also blogging about my life and what I've learned during the van build out and everything at green.van.go.com.
Sweet. Awesome. And I will link to those in the show notes as well. Is there anything else you want to mention before we sign off?
I don't think so. I'm just loving life, and it's super cool to connect with a fellow Ford well, you're an E350, right?
Yeah. I mean, that basically just means I can have heavier shit in my van than you can.
Be that way. You just got the heavier shit.
I will carry all the heavy shit.
You need to let some of that baggage go, girlfriend.
Touche.
Thank you so much, though, for having me. This has been really fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to actually do this in person next time.
Right? Me too.
Yeah. We'll do an in-person update, because then you'll have even more months behind you, and then people can see how the transition actually goes.
Yeah, I know. I'm like this seasoned I don't know, weathered human. Like, in a few months, is that the girl you interviewed?
I have a beard, all these wrinkles.
Oh my God.
It's gonna be incredible. It's gonna be amazing.
It is. I'll work on that in the meantime.
Yes, please. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Deliberate Living. If you want to support the podcast, I have links for that in the show notes as well. You can contribute via Venmo or PayPal. Also, sharing your favorite episodes with someone you think needs to hear the information that's in them, or leaving a 5-star review really helps it get in front of the eyes of people who need this information. And I hope you guys are all having an excellent week, and tune in next time for another awesome episode. Bye!
Bye!
We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.